I want to take a look at two apps that I use both when planning a flight and also when I arrive at the takeoff point that I want to use. First one is UAV Forecast. So let's open up the app, and what's the first thing we see is the overview. So UAV Forecast. Coming down, the first thing we see is the location, either searchable or recorded by the location of a device. Then coming down we find the recommendation, good to fly. Coming down again we come to the weather forecast, and down again to the wind speed. You'll see the different colours of the icons. These represent the suitability to fly. Coming down again we've come to the precipitation probability. These colours set up within the settings of your tolerances basically. Down again, number of visible satellites you can expect to find at that location. And down again we come to the date or day and the time of day. The paid version you can go 7 days into the future, unpaid is just 24 hours. And again a quick no fly zones nearby to that location. Coming up we've got the solar activity, 2 is fine. Then coming up again we come to the cloud cover predicted and the height of that cloud cover. Then up again to the wind gusts, no problem with that, 9. I set mine at maximum of 200 feet. And then up again to both the sunrise and sunset. And then across to the temperature including wind chill. You can have an option not to include wind chill. Down again to the wind direction, useful where we are on the coast. And then down to the anticipated visibility when you're flying VLOS, always useful. And then finally down again to a number of satellites actually locked onto the device. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the settings that we can change within UAV Forecast. So if we open up UAV Forecast, bearing in mind I'm currently indoors, so some of the information is going to be a bit limited. First thing to look at is the general overview, so not good to fly, basing that on the visibility of 0 miles. Understandable. Forecast. The paid version gives you access to 7 days information. The free version restricts you to 24 hours. You can see just a general overview of the weather forecast. Next, moving on to wind profile. Again, the orange is showing you where it exceeds the parameters that I've put into the system as being my maximum wind speed that I'm flying. As you move through the timeline down the bottom there, it adjusts accordingly. Map zooming in on my last location where I flew, so let's go back to where I am now. Just a general overview. I must admit I don't tend to use the map on this app. I tend to use the Drone Assist app more. Within the settings you see a variety of settings you can change. First one we'll look at is threshold settings, and this is where you set the settings relevant to your drone or drones. So maximum speed I've set at 20, bearing in mind the drones I fly. Wind altitude 200 feet, I'm seldom going to exceed that. Minimum maximum temperature I'm flying I adjust for wind chill. Probability for precipitation, I don't tend to use that an awful lot. Cloud base, never going to get that high. And the number of satellites I regard as the minimum that are flying. Solar activity, etc. So anything you put within these thresholds will affect whether or not the orange appears on the initial screen, the overview screen. No fly zone settings, adjustable as you wish. And also whether you're in statute nautical miles. Going down to unit settings, really a choice for you. Whatever you feel comfortable working in. Language, obviously English for me. Theme. Moving down then towards forecast. Choice of 3 different options. Auto, whichever happens to be recommended. UAV forecast. Currently under development. Dark sky, only available until the end of 2021. I tend to leave it on UAV forecast. I may change to auto. Other headings that you can amend, other entries. Very much a question for whatever you wish to do with that section. So that's the general settings within UAV forecast. And again, going back to the main screen, just a general overview. As you can see down the bottom, current time 9 AM on the Monday. No problems shown, safe to fly. If we change that through to Sunday at 9 o'clock, you see we have not good to fly. Wind speeds, the gusts exceed the maximum that I'd applied. Moving through a day, just dragging through, changes as good to fly until we obviously get to the evening. And cloud cover becomes an issue. Not surprised that time of day. So looking back in the morning, it's basically telling us not good to fly based on the wind gusts. Although it's also showing weather, obviously less than the 40% that I set within the parameters. That's a good overview of what's going on. So just clicking back to the current time and date. That's what we're looking at. Wind chill of 2 degrees. Couldn't believe that. We had light shower of snow earlier this morning. Pretty cloudy but quite high. Good satellite coverage. Now if we go to the actual, it shows 24 hours of forecast, 7 days, subscribe for a year. I believe it was 20 some odd pounds for the year, which I paid. There you go, that's UAV forecast. And now if we look at the Drone Assist app, which is the other app I tend to use when out. So having accepted the terms, find the first map comes up, it's just a general overview. Tell me at the top it's follow a drone code, so it's not finding any issues in the area I'm in. Now as you see, as the flight restriction zone comes into view, we change to high risk. Now clicking on that shows us that it's a flight restriction zone for a small airfield at Goodwood, and above it we have possibility of aircraft taking off from the racecourse heliport. We zoom out again, you'll find lots of smaller zones come into play. Again, could be a small airfield, or in that case ultralights flying from that area. Hazards to be aware of, except for obviously the flight restriction zones that you can't enter without permission. if we go back to the area we're in, going back to the area we want to fly in, you'll find that ground hazards begin to appear. So zooming in, there we go. We're having the power line showing, the railway line, and a charging station. Obviously the railway hazard area is one to try and avoid, the ground hazard from the pylons. And if we look at this little rectangle here, click on it, we'll find it's actually a local primary school. Obviously privacy concerns if you start flying around that. So that's where we flew the other day from Chidham. Just telling me to follow a drone code, which I try to do. Has an option to put on the upper airspace layers, which aren't going to affect me the height I fly at. Additional layers that can be added if you want. And then if we click on flight reports, I haven't filed any. I don't want to file any at the moment, thank you. Resources showing us where it's getting data from and available resources through it. So there we go, and that's a brief overview of the area report so we can see what's going on. Give you a weather forecast, ground hazards. Seems to be quite happy, ticks in all those boxes. Except for the weather, where we've got light sleet. Gives you the option to say you're taking off, which we won't be doing. You can file reports, I believe, using this app. Again, just a general overview of the area, the hazard that would be the school. If we go to the App Store, have a quick look at it there. There we go. Doesn't get particularly good write-ups. Again, just an overview where it's showing the hazards, zones, and other people's opinions. Obviously not very good, 2.4, but it's part of the NATS system, which is why I use it. Anyway, that's a brief overview of the apps that I use when flying. Thank you.